Now, what's the benefit of a permanent staff? Permanent staffing is very rewarding. Lots and lots of organizations. In fact, if you're the client, and the client in this instance is somebody who is the person who's taking on the member of staff. So it could be the hospital, it could be the care home, the nursing home, whoever is basically paying for the service, they're the client. So the client always prefer a permanent staff, because for them, they don't want to be paying on a weekly basis or an ongoing basis for a member of staff that they could have working for them on a permanent basis. For them, that's more beneficial. It's not always the case, and I'll explain that a bit later, but in most cases, it's more beneficial for somebody, a client, to want a person to work with them on a permanent basis, whether it's a healthcare assistant or a doctor. Because what happens is that member of staff belongs to them. So what they do with the recruitment agencies is that they pay a fee. Usually it's a percentage, but it could be anything between 10 to 20%. It could be a little bit higher depending on the type of role that you're recruiting for. But we are talking specifically about the healthcare sector here, and we're specifically talking about healthcare assistants and doctors, as I mentioned. So if a doctor is getting a salary of £80,000, for instance, then there's a fee which needs to be negotiated between the recruitment agency and the hospital as to what is the agreed fee for when the doctor is taken on a permanent basis. Now, this happens very rarely with doctors, because doctors usually don't need to go through a recruitment agency to get a permanent job. There's plenty of work out there, especially in the UK. But for nurses, basically, you have a market here where nursing homes will pay you a fee, usually 15 to 18%. This is what we've operated in the past, for the nurse to work permanently within the nursing home. And the salary for a nurse could vary. It could be anything between £30,000 to £70,000, depending on what the role is and what the seniority level of that nurse is. So there's benefits for both sides. But as I've mentioned, a lot of the times, the candidates who come into the recruitment agency, they're usually searching for temporary work because they want that flexibility. But a lot of clients will always want to recruit permanently. At the moment, the world that we live in is basically an employee's market. The employee is able to choose and select where and when they want to work. The client usually is in a position, and it's a very rare position, this is the first time in a while that we've come to this position where the client really doesn't have that much say. They want everyone to work on a permanent basis. They want everyone to come to the office, but a lot of people want to work from home, or they want a hybrid working environment, and therefore they have to be really careful because of the lack of resources, because of the lack of expertise we have in the UK at the moment. This is where things are. Now, this will change. It will definitely change. I can guarantee you that. Where today is a temporary market, tomorrow there may be a legislation which changes, which encourages people to work on a permanent basis. We've had this a few years ago, whereby the government in the UK changed the rules for doctors, in fact, where doctors were self-employed, and therefore they can work through an agency, through an umbrella company, as a self-employed individual, almost like a contractor, and they will be invoicing the NHS, for instance, for the services rendered. However, the government a few years ago, they've made some regulation changes, and which basically effectively meant the doctors would not be able to operate as contractors going forward. They have to work, if they want to work as a doctor in the UK, they have to work under the NHS trust which they're working for. And this is something which really significantly changed the whole market. Because before that, it was a lot easier for recruitment agencies to recruit doctors, so to be able to supply to the NHS, whereas now it's become a lot more difficult because the doctors have to work permanently, with the trust that they're working at. There's some benefits. There's some things which are not so great. There's, like everything and anything that we talk about, there's always pros and cons. So you have to think very, very carefully. Which market do you want to go into? But because I've been focusing primarily on the temporary market, I would suggest to you the temporary market at the moment, the way it's looking, it's still very, very strong. And this is something where you can still make a huge impact in if you so wish to. And this is where I come in. I can help you, I can teach you on how to be the most effective individual when it comes to recruiting in the temporary sector. I can teach you about the permanent sector because this is an area of expertise overall which I have, but the temporary sector at present, especially in the healthcare sector, is very, very strong and is something which I can foresee for the next 10 to 20 years as being an industry which is still going to be very, very strong. So if this is something which you're interested in, make contact. Let's have a discussion and let's see where we can help each other, or help you in terms of achieving your goals of opening a recruitment agency, supplying temporary staffing into the private sector as well as the NHS. Let's have a chat.